Question I had for you is breathing as an athlete and the longevity
Right.
of it all.
Yeah. So you look at the development of the respiratory system in the average human. It starts off at infancy and young little babies, right? And there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of misunderstanding around that part. People say, oh, you want to breathe naturally, you look how a baby breathes. A baby always breathes in its belly. So that shows that babies are natural. So I was teaching that for 25 years because everybody agrees, medical science, everybody's like, it seems to be common sense. So we use that as a reason to justify when we train people to do diaphragmatic breathing. You say, look at how a baby breathes. They breathe low in their belly. You don't want to be breathing high in your chest. So the first thing is you train people to get back down into their belly. The lungs are wider. There's more diffusion of blood and gases in the lower parts because the lungs are shaped like cones and they're narrow up here. So if you're breathing up here, you're not taking advantage of a lot of, blood vessels that are like really deep down the bottom of the lung. So you send the blood low, the breath low. That's the first lesson. But the point was I want to talk about the development of respiratory system. You start off at small. Sometime around, your respiratory capacity grows and grows through life, a little small child, teen years. It reaches a peak, I'm guessing, but it's between 23 and 27 years old, somewhere in there. Somebody could check and find out exactly. But say somewhere around 27, you reach your peak respiratory capacity. And then, this is a really cool thing, for every decade of life, 37, 47, 57, the average person loses between 10% and 25% of their respiratory capacity. So you have peak respiratory capacity at 27 years old. At 37, you've lost that big chunk already. And then the next decade, you lose another big chunk and another big chunk. So by the time you're 60 years old, you got like 40% of the respiratory capacity you had at your peak level at 27. So you can chart that. You can chart the development, the peak respiratory capacity, and then the decline over the years until you're 90 years old, and you're lucky if you have 30% of your 10%. And that's the main indicator of life expectancy, is respiratory capacity, right? The FEV1. So yeah, so how much air can you blow out in a second? That's a very good test of the health of the respiratory system. And so there is ways to really chart it and graph the progress of it. So now if you look at that graph, that over a lifetime, then you put the life expectancy, chart the life expectancy. So when you're a child, if you get through all the little child illnesses and you survive beyond there, your odds increase until you get to, guess what? Between about 23 and 27 years old, where your peak, everything else, physical development, you're at the peak. And then you look at the decline over the rest of life. Those two, life expectancy. So you're a life expectancy right at that peak, and then it goes down, those two things look like this.
Okay, now how do we counteract
So now
that?
what you do is when you reach peak respiratory efficiency, your breathing system is developed fully naturally to its peak, then you start to maintain it. You maintain that respiratory capacity. You don't let it decline. It's not hard to do, but you got to do it. You got to spend, I think 40 minutes is like minimum. Anybody else, I think they're lying to themselves if they're serious about training, doing the breath training. And 40 minutes, people go, oh, fuck, I don't have 40 minutes. But if you do it 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night, and then 10 times during the day for 2 minutes, it's better than doing it 40 minutes in the morning, going to the gym for 40 minutes. You're integrating it into every experience and event and activity during your day. It's being integrated, so it becomes like part of you. It's a better way to train, I think. So then what you do is you maintain your respiratory capacity and the life expectancy. It's almost as if it just begs to follow it.
So there's many ways to do that.
That's the blessing and that's the problem, because it's so subjective. It's like trying to get a feel for something. How do I know that I have a feel for it? How do I know if you have a feel for it? If we can both do it, we can conclude, but I think we each have our own feel for it. It's not the same. So it's hard to subjectively measure and duplicate. So medical scientists kind of go, well, we don't know. But now you can measure enough shit, and you can predict very easily and very.
So what was that breathing exercise you told me about, the 3 stages of exhalation?
3 stages.
45 seconds.
For doing breath holding training.
Yes.
Right? The whole thing. Hey, when we were kids, didn't everybody just do that? When we'd have contests holding our breath.
Right.
I mean, and that's true. And I've been to 42 countries. Every freaking one of these 42 countries, when little kids were little kids, they were playing and holding their breath and having contests. It's like universal. So that's like a cool thing. So all we're doing is like, hey, yeah, let's play with that breath. Let's not do that. And as it turns out, there's lots of things you can do that can give you lots of abilities.
Start with 10, 20 seconds of exhalation and
lengthen in the exhale. You had mentioned like asthma, pursed lip breathing, like COPD people and things like that. They taught the pursed lip breathing. It's a way to slow down and control their breathing. But if you're an athlete, you would also want to slow down and control your breathing. Why wait until you get to like the end of the thing? So you find ways to work the breathing into whatever else.
Yeah, I like what you said about that.
And you know the spiel on